Welcome back to Getting to the Top, where we interview transformational leaders about their leadership journey. And if you are a subscriber, and I hope that you are, and if you aren't yet, please do become one. Today, we have the special honor of interviewing not one, but two phenomenons. We have the two co-CEOs of Impact A Global. They both have over 30 years experience in emerging markets, doing some extraordinary things. And if I were to sort of read both of their bios, that would be all the time that we have. So today we're going to introduce them briefly, ask them about the thing that they're proudest of in their work and in their history. We're going to talk a little bit about their backgrounds and how they came to this point of being co-CEOs. And then we'll talk to them a little bit about being co-CEOs and what that's like, and the opportunities that it creates, and some of the interesting situations that it might produce. Welcome, Victoria and Isabella.
Thank you, Racquel.
All right, so we'll start with you, Victoria. So tell me about, in your incredible background, including JP Morgan and all of the wonderful things that you've done in emerging markets, what is the thing that you're proudest of as a part of your career trajectory?
Well, I was involved in so many initiatives over those 30 years. I mean, I feel incredibly fortunate that I started out in emerging markets when it was a very nascent asset class. So I began my career journey just as emerging markets were starting to emerge onto the global stage and become an investable universe. So I guess as I look back, there would be two milestones. One would be the launch of the Emerging Markets Corporate Bond Index that I launched in 2007. While I was at JP Morgan, I was running the research team for about 10 years. And that was a product suite that I really felt was missing from the market. And that really provided a platform for phenomenal growth in issuance in the emerging markets corporate bond market. So without an index, investors were struggling to be able to benchmark their performance in EM corporates, were reluctant to increase their allocations. And with a dedicated benchmark, which we created at JP Morgan together with the phenomenal index team, we launched a product, and we've seen EM corporate issuance volumes soar from around $20 billion per annum in the year 2000 to around $450 billion per annum by 2022. So I do feel the small role I played there helped give momentum to the emergence of a new asset class. And the second thing that I'm very proud of course, is the launch of Impact Global. And it's a passion that both Isabella and I share. We can talk about how we came to that, but we truly believe that we've launched and are in the process of launching a vehicle that can be transformational as well for the market in terms of demonstrating the resilience of infrastructure debt in emerging markets and providing investors with the opportunity to access the financing opportunities that we see there.
Wonderful. And so this is a great opportunity to introduce Isabella.
Thank you, Racquel. I had a career not very different from that of Victoria's, but yet very different, right? So I grew up in Brazil. I'm a lawyer by training, and then I moved on. So I've always worked either within or with emerging markets from the outset. And at JP Morgan, I'll agree with Victoria that one of the most impressive things that we've managed to achieve is actually bring more financing to emerging markets. And we were privileged to having part of the team of JP Morgan that delivered on so many new jurisdictions, brought capital to so many new jurisdictions, brought new products for investors, so brought access to a variety of risks that provide a good risk return results for investors, but yet it was really hard to access. So when we think about the fact that now we're setting up impact, and the concept of impact has evolved over the years, and we're getting much more smart about what is good capital, what is bad capital, and how to put the capital to the best work. I think that simply by working in emerging markets over 30 years, the work that you do by just bringing financing that otherwise would not be available in domestic markets is very impactful, helping governments and companies actually roll out their infrastructure, and whether it's health and education and or building roads, over 30 years. It's I'm actually very proud of having been part of a team that helped deliver that and raise awareness and the attractiveness of investing in emerging markets. And then obviously, at Impacta, I think we're just doing it in a just more focused and smarter way, right? But we can really try and direct capital to the best opportunities and where they're most impactful.
And I think what impressed me the most, and what I was most excited about when I first met Victoria and she was telling me about Impacta and what you were doing, is the opportunity that it presents for women in emerging markets, and how that work as two female co-CEOs, how that work stands to make a real difference in gender equity and access to funding in emerging markets. You want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, do you want
sometimes people say, well, how come you're a group of women? Why just a group of women that founded this platform? Because it started with Isabella and I. It was a plan we'd hatched several years before to really address these financing gaps that didn't make sense, fantastic opportunities that we thought deserved investment, but the market was very siloed and the right players didn't exist. But so Isabella and I started it, and then we brought in 2 other partners in 2022 when we launched. But the truth is, we're a team of women that have a deep friendship that goes back over many decades, and we really have confidence in each other's professional abilities. There's never any challenge about I wouldn't say there's never any challenge about you. It's not that we don't challenge each other, but we understand each other's competencies, and we trust each other's judgment. And we really had a shared vision of what we felt we could achieve together. And we have created a vehicle that will be investing for all humanity, obviously, in our target markets are renewable energy, clean mobility, healthcare, water, sanitation, but we have very much picked sectors that we feel can impact the lives of women the most and can be most relevant to the lives of women in emerging markets.
And Isabella, what did it mean? Mm-hmm.
For me, I think also as in terms of leading by example, we know that there's a tiny percentage of assets being managed by women. So we really want to lead the way and serve as an example that there is no reason why fund managers cannot be run by women. And in emerging markets in particular, I think we underestimate how many female leaders there are already in many emerging markets jurisdictions. I think it's that's an area where it's hard to generalize, right? The progress of women in different jurisdictions. Some will have quite a significant participation of women in the labor force and in leadership positions. In some other countries, that representation is much smaller. But obviously, overall, the picture is no better than it is in the developed world, for sure. So there's a long way to go. But I think, as Victoria said, just trying to reduce inequality so that we give the most vulnerable the ability to withstand the effects of climate change and have a shot at developing themselves professionally and giving better education to their kids is crucial to us.
Beautiful, and I couldn't agree more. So, Victoria, you talked about, this was a plan that you guys had for some time and then brought this thing to fruition. How did it start? How did you come up with this concept of working together? And it was incredible how similar your career backgrounds have been. Like you sort of, worked alongside each other in various initiatives that really complemented each other well. So how did you sort of have this light bulb moment that says we should do this? Where were you and how did that happen?
I remember where we were. We were in a restaurant in Sloane Square with two other colleagues from the markets as well, and we started. I don't recall all the conversation, but I think we were complaining that the market was so siloed that people were missing opportunities, and that there were fantastic opportunities that went. They were delayed infrastructure opportunities because the right kind of investor wasn't available, and we kind of said, why don't we set this up ourselves? What are we doing? And we were all employed by large organizations at that point in time. I think it was 2015 or 2016, wasn't it, Isabella? We were all looking at stepping away from existing jobs, but so Isabella and I have stayed in touch over the last 2.5 decades. We've traveled all over the world on various emerging markets on diligence trips together. We've been to Eastern Europe, we've been to Kazakhstan together, we've done many trips to Brazil together, and as you say, we'd worked alongside each other, albeit in different disciplines. Myself more on the research side, and then on the trading and restructuring side, Isabella initially on the legal side, and then more on the structuring side. But we said, why don't we set it up ourselves? And over the next few months, we started to build a skeleton plan, and then life got in the way, but we always stayed in touch. And then in 2021, I think we both moved on from working for large organizations, and we knew the time was right. So it all very quickly came back together, and the time was right for us professionally, and the time was right in the markets as well.
So in the midst of a global pandemic, you said this is the time.
I think we really worried too much about that. It probably gave us a bit more time to be on video calls because we couldn't leave the house.
And Isabella, for you, what do you remember about that first conversation, deciding to do this extraordinary transformational initiative?
I think it was absolutely brilliant. I think the particular idea that we were women and all very, very competent. I'm proud of being associated with such a competent group of women. It was really like, let's do it and let's show what we can deliver, and how sometimes just the diversity of thought and of perspective can really add a lot to the conversation. I think the interesting thing when you work so closely together in the same organization, you also sort of learn a lot of similar things, right? But at the same time, the fact that it had different backgrounds to bring to the table made the conversation so much richer, right? So that's one of the things that we actually like about us as a team, is that we just bring a different perspective to the conversation of how to go about, how to select the sectors that we want to focus in, what matters to us in terms of delivering on our strategy. So I think that's what I remember the most from the conversation back then. We're really very, very happy with the team that we put together, because everybody bought into the idea, men and women, that we have now on the team.
Lovely. So this is an excellent segue into co-CEOs. Now, so many times, you just imagine that, you think about co-CEOs and you're like, that sounds like a disaster, because, how do you know who has the final sign off? How do you take a final decision when you don't agree? What does that work? What does that look like? And there's so many, I think, opportunities in bringing that, two different sides of a coin together, but also to just talk about the pros and cons of being co-CEOs.
Do you want me to go first? I mean,
Yeah.
I only see pros. And I think I said to Isabella a few months back, I don't think I would have embarked upon this journey without, us being, it was our idea. It was our child. It was like a couple. We created a child together. And someone asked us this last year, made the comment that there are a lot of unsuccessful co-CEO arrangements. And I was quite puzzled by that. I think Isabella retorted that there were plenty of unsuccessful examples of single CEOs. But
That's a
my
good one.
response was, isn't most of the world set up as co-CEOs with a husband and wife or whatever, co-parenting or family arrangement, that the world generally, or a large portion of the world successfully works together as couples, whether it's running a household or raising a child, which is arguably the most important task you could embark upon in life. So I think for me, it's very natural. The genesis of that co-CEO relationship, I guess, is very different from one that you see in large corporate organizations where co-CEOs are forced together because the board doesn't want to take a choice, or they want to retain the talent of both without offending one. We took the decision to embark on this journey together. We created an idea together and we have implemented it together. So, and of course, there are sometimes things that we have a different view on how to approach them, but it's very rare it's anything of importance. It's mainly in the implementation details. And I think we do have tremendous professional respect for one another, having worked closely together, having executed many complex transactions together, and having both seen each other flourish within the various organizations we've worked for. So I think that makes it a very natural partnership.
And for you, Isabella?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really the ability to exchange ideas, because we all have different talents, right? We all have different strengths and weaknesses. So it's the fact that we chose to do this together, and that we know we complement each other. Sometimes it's a little bit relaxing, because there's so many decisions that need to be made constantly, and you want to make sure that you're making the right decision for the right, which is the right thing for the company. So sometimes, one is struggling, the other one, you go ahead and you deal with this with trust that the decision will be done properly along the lines of the strategy that will be set out. I think only when you have this relationship of trust that you can do that. I think it's great to have somebody that okay, if I cannot deal with it, I know Victoria will deal with it, and it will be good. Maybe I would have done it slightly different, but we know that we're both going in the same direction. And the exchange of ideas and the challenge, because somebody asked the other day, well, does it slow down the decision making process? Not too much. There will be a few things that we'll discuss more about, which is the right way of addressing this. But then you would hope that then the decision is richer and more complete by the time you reach it. So I think it won't always work for the companies, and in particular, as Victoria said, when two people are forced to work together, they don't necessarily see eye to eye and they don't have the same vision. Well, then it can be problematic, right? But for us, I think it just strengthens the implementation of the vision.
So for me, I I love the concept, and I'll tell you what I like and what if I'm being devil's advocate, I think about, right? So I love this idea of women coming together because I've long said that there's this myth that women can't work together. And I don't think that's something that's based in fact. I think that's based in fiction, because if you have 12 slices of a pie and you get two people, the women, to fight over the one slice, then you get to keep the other 11 while they're distracted fighting over one slice. And I think that's been the prevailing narrative that, oh, women don't get along. Women get along just fine. We have really strong friendships. It's why we live so long. It's because of the sense of community that we build with each other. So, and the wars, not the women, it's the men. So just to sort of right size that expectation. So that wouldn't be the concern for me. For me, if I'm being devil's advocate, when I think of co-CEOs, I wonder and worry if it isn't yet another way of, not entrusting complete power to women. And I understand that you got there because of your incredible working relationship and all of the things that you've done together and the way that you've been able to work together. And Victoria, to your point about, marriage and parenting, and for sure, there's a reason in nature it generally takes two organisms to come together to make a third. But half of marriages end in divorce. So it means that there is a friction with trying to have two people steer something. And so that would be my concern. But I also think it could be a unique opportunity if you are ready for leadership, but you feel like you need some more support. A co-CEO arrangement could be something to consider as an opportunity, especially if there's someone that you have that deep respect, longstanding trust, and can use to steer a ship together.
Yeah, if I could take that one, I think it is, you are right that this is a common perception, right? And the other thing that you hear sometimes that, well, women can't really make decisions. They like to be nice to everybody. Therefore, there's no hierarchy, and whatever, as a result, you won't achieve anything, right?
Mhm.
So in fact, we do have a leadership team. We do have a hierarchy. We do have team. We have objectives, and we have responsibilities. But at the CEO level, I think we are so complementary that we bring so much more to the CEO role than if it was just one of us. That I think that issue sort of falls away. Yeah, there are plenty of women who don't get on as much as there are men who don't get on, and to the point of wars, it's very obvious. I have seen in my career leadership positions where you had co-CEOs that got on and that chose to do so together, and that leadership lasted for successfully, right, with a business that ran well without politics, etc., for many years. And see co-heads that were put together, and all people were waiting was to see who was going to kill the other to take the whole crown. So you see, and perhaps sometimes you see more of the latter than of the first, but I have seen examples of, I've had bosses, co-CEOs that chose to do it together and did it very successfully.
Victoria, what I wonder about is the situation that the two of you have is so unique, and I completely get that's why it works. But for the others and the other examples, like how do you create a similar scenario when you don't have that history together? How do you create that relationship of harmony and, an effortless pass of the baton when you haven't had your careers, so well aligned as you and Isabella have?
And it doesn't work. I think people need to, when people don't have that relationship, they need to understand that they need to then split the responsibilities to people's strengths, right? Everybody has different strengths. Sometimes one is more of a people person, the other one is more of a technical person, or the other one is, more of a trader, the other one is more of a risk person. So you just need to be smart enough, because if you want to survive in that joint position, I mean, it's a choice, right? Some people don't want to be in that joint position and decide that they want to be the sole king, and it is what it is. But when you're willing to make it work, you just need to acknowledge, okay, you're better at this, and I'm better at that. Why don't we just put our best foot forward to try to make it work, even if there's not that big friendship? But I do think it requires both sides to want to make it work. Right?
Yeah. That
But sorry, Victoria.
sounds like marriage.
Yeah.
And I think it helps, we have created this together. If Isabella or I was someone who'd been brought in by the board to help the other, with the suggestion that the other person couldn't do it on their own, that would be very different. But we chose to do this together because we felt we would be complementary, and it was a journey. We felt we would be stronger together, for sure, in leading the company. And it's hard work setting something up, especially in the fund management world. As Isabella says, there are very, very few examples of women in senior leadership positions in fund management. The Ford Foundation has done a lot of work on this, and I think it's something like it's less than 2% of senior professionals in fund management are women. So it's quite a tough journey. So we're very, very happy to be there to support each other.
And, I find that so curious, right? Because when you look at financial services, in the middle management, there are so many women in financial services. But somehow, when you get into fund management or senior fund management, you're starting to see a lot more women heading up major financial institutions now. But I'm not sure that I understand what happens between that wealth of capacity that we seem to have in middle management and why that doesn't translate into more numbers at the leadership level. Any thoughts about that?
I mean, on my end, I do think that the institutions, I mean, the experience we have more firsthand is in the banking sector, right? Institutions need to make that extra effort to retain that talent. There's a variety of reasons why women may sort of drop out at that level, right? Some are family related, but many are not, right? People tend to associate, oh, it's just that women decided to have children, therefore they're giving up on their careers. I think it's very wrong to assume that that's the main reason. I think one of the things that we've studied that observed these things, I think information, access to the information about the leadership positions, that networking, that women perhaps don't focus on enough, and then the senior leadership don't make that extra effort to make sure that women are part of that talent pool and the network of information that would make them good candidate for all those promotions. I think it's key. I think institutions need to do a little bit more work on that to make sure women get the opportunities that they're capable of exercising.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think certainly the access to information, but also I think when that networking that you're talking about, some of that networking takes place in spaces where we are not. And so you tend to reach out to your own network. Whenever I think of, oh, well, if someone comes to me and says, I'm looking for someone to do XYZ, I'll think about my own network. And my network naturally has more women than men because it's me. And I'm an advocate for women. But if you only ask other men, then you're likely to get a very male-centered, gender-specific response. And then the men are like, well, there aren't any women. I was like, there are tons of women. That's why we make up 50% of the planet. Yeah. We are represented in massive numbers, but you're asking the wrong people. I think you're right. Senior leadership has to make a greater effort on getting more women in the door.
And there's a self-reinforcing effect. Well, I think they do get women in the door at the junior level. And certainly in my time at JP Morgan, I was very involved in university recruiting there. I think we were slightly above 50-50 at graduate level, but women were lost, as you say, as we progress and as people's careers progress. It's a tough industry, and and especially if finance professionals, are partnered with another finance professional, you lose women as their careers progress, and then that network for the women that remain is much smaller. So it's self-reinforcing. Your network of professionals in your workplace shrinks as you advance up the organization beyond a certain stage.
Yeah, the important thing is for women need to network with women and with men. Because at the end of the day, the ones holding the pen on the promotions and they are likely to be men. So we have twice the job of a man.
But you also hear such horrific stories about women being preyed upon, right, in efforts to network. And it's sad, the whole Me Too movement was very clear that there is a systematic problem with having that power imbalance and what that can do. So I think it is being willing and able to network, but also being able to do it safely.
Yeah, and being respected. Absolutely. I
and
think
strategically.
the large organizations have probably recently done a better job at that than some of the smaller ones.
Yeah. So maybe it is that in the same way that you two are allies and work together, that women also support each other in that, so that you can network, but also do that safely without ever subjecting yourself to any kind of exposure.
Absolutely.
What are you two most excited about with Impact A? And that's where I'd want to close and to wrap up. I think this has such tremendous potential for massive transformation. And I want to know, from your perspectives, what are you most excited about your ability to do?
I mean, I can go for, we're relatively early in our journey, but we're now at the point of deploying our capital, and that's what this whole initiative was about. And I'm just so excited to be able to look across potential projects that we're seeing in water, in healthcare, in renewable energy across the Caribbean, the Andean region, sub-Saharan Africa, and to see the difference that our participation in those projects can potentially make in really closing the gap, bringing other financing partners together and getting very impactful projects over the line. So that's what inspired us to set up. We are hugely grateful, I would like to say at this point, to Legal & General, which is our strategic partner and has helped accelerate our journey and supported us with by taking a stake in the firm and by committing cornerstone capital. But yes, that's what really excites me, the deployment opportunities ahead, and being part at the early stages of a journey that I truly believe will see infrastructure finance in emerging markets emerge as a mainstream asset class over the next 2 decades.
And Isabella?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to see our capital be put to use, and I think want to see the infrastructure that we help build. I think the day we see completion of this project and see actually the infrastructure being delivered, the water, the health facility, or the energy, it will be a great joy for all of us.
There's one question that I normally ask my guests that I haven't asked you, and I think I do want to ask, and it is, what is the best advice that you've ever received?
I think Probably that, and I'm going to quote it. This was a piece of advice that came from Daniel Pinto, who is now head of the investment bank at JP Morgan, and who both Isabella and I had the fortune to work alongside when he was running emerging markets in London. And I'm not going to quote him perfectly, but he basically alluded to the fact that careers often, you have periods during your career when you may feel you have reached, a plateau. You don't always go up in a vertical line. So, and his point was that, that is normal. There are periods where you go up and then you're learning that role before you move up again. And so I guess in that context, believe in yourself, stay focused on really work that you love and roles that really motivate you and where you have a real vision. But sometimes you need to be patient, and there are periods in your life where you need to be patient and get your head down, be the best that you can, and stay focused on the next opportunity.
Yeah, perhaps for me, it was the advice on my first due diligence trip when I was quite junior, on a financing, and sort of the head of the project said, "Do you want to go on the trip? You don't have to." So I was relatively junior. I said, "What do you think?" He said, "I think you should go. You absolutely should go because you want that experience." And I think from having done my first due diligence trip, I never look back, because it's taken me to so many countries, to meeting so many interesting people. I think that's the passion of doing emerging markets. You meet people in places that you won't necessarily go on holidays with your family, so you would miss out on the opportunity of meeting and enriching yourself. So I think I never look back after I did my first due diligence trip on a financing project that we were working on.
I think
it's true that it is such a privilege to in our careers. We've had so much privilege in traveling to places and meeting people that you never usually would in the normal course of life.
No, I think both excellent pieces of advice, just to understand that your career can seem to plateau, and it's not always going to be moving up. And some people get quite frustrated when they're on the verge of a breakthrough. And it is understanding that it meanders along a path. And as long as you're never going down, that you continue either moving to the side and keep focusing on the objective and continuing to snake your way up. It's wonderful. And definitely when you have an opportunity to expose yourself and to enrich your knowledge, jump at it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent advice for our listeners. All right, well, thank you both so much. It has been a pleasure. You have convinced me. I think co-CEOs is the way to go. And I think that there are lots of really great reasons that we should take a much more collaborative approach to leadership. I believe that we would have far better decisions if we were able to collaborate more with people that we trust and respect, so that we get the best possible decisions on behalf of our world.
Thank you so much, Racquel.
Thank you. And thank you for staying with us till this point. I know that it's been absolutely inspiring for you. I at least hope it has been for you as it's been for me. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. It helps me to get great guests like these, and then share with you information that can help you on your own career journey, so that you understand there are so many different possible ways for you to get to the top. Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.